Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Groom's Perspective with your hosts Martha Haring and Katie Mosedale. We're opening the stable door and delving into the highs and lows of the eventing world via Spotify, Apple and all good podcasting platforms. For the video edition, please visit the Groom's Perspective via YouTube or say hello back on our Instagram. But for now, here's this week's episode. Hello and welcome back to episode 9 we're at now. We have missed a week, haven't we, Martha?
Yeah, we've just been too busy being actual grooms and not podcasters.
Yeah, we pretend we're podcasters, but we do have to occasionally do some work. So we are back this week and we have a special guest who is with us. This week's special guest is Davina. Or David,
Hi,
Edney,
guys.
as I should probably call you.
Yes, that confuses a lot of people.
Yeah. Why are you called Davina?
Well, a very, very, very long time ago, Jeanette rode a horse called McGrigan, a little stallion. He's actually on the wall over there. He's really cute. And he was owned by a very, very, very out there guy called Alistair Holder. And he rang one day, and we back in the day of a landline, and picked it up, and he said, "Is that Davina Diviner?" And I was like, "Sorry." He's like, "Is that Davina Diviner?" I was like, "No, it's David," and it stuck like glue. And that was beginning of 2001, and it's been my name ever since.
You probably weren't even born.
That's a long time. That's 25 years.
So you've been Davina for 25 years.
Pretty much.
Perfect.
Well, 24 years. Sorry.
Only in horses.
Only-
My family and my other half, who sat over my right shoulder, would not call me Davina. Everybody in horses does.
Perfect. So we thought you'd get you on because you've had quite a long career. That's a bit rude.
Yes, I am quite old. Thank you very much. The
Had
wine
a
helps.
very long career grooming.
It takes it out of you being a You age quite quickly.
Yeah, you
Yes,
don't,
you do, like
don't
a
have
fine
that
wine.
many
Yeah.
grey hairs considering you're a groom.
Oh, I do. I mean, it's disappearing. It's kind of going further and further back.
Yeah, so we thought you've done a lot of different things in your career as a
I have,
groom,
I've
would
been
be a
very
polite
lucky.
way of putting it. And we thought you could come on and chat a bit about kind of where the career took you, how you got into it, and all that kind of thing.
Where to start? God. I was always in some form or not around ponies, horses, my whole life. I've been very lucky. And the first, I was thinking on the way here, I was like, God, who's really made an impact on my career? And when I started, near my parents' house was a riding school, and it was owned by an old lady called Margaret Headley, and she's still alive, and she's an amazing lady. I saw her last weekend at Belsen, and I loved seeing her, and I drove her crazy when I was a kid. I'd be walking around at shows, like just walking around saying, does anybody want any help? And it was constant. I was there, and like I'd go and help, and she had an amazing yard manager called Lynn. I still think so highly of them now, and you're going back to, oh my God, a long time ago. But they were really pivotal, really, and they really kind of helped fuel my kind of wanting to do it. I never dreamed I'd get to where I got to, but they kind of helped fuel what I started with. So I helped there quite a lot when I was a kid. Obviously went to school. I actually did a year at college, which not many people know. And the woman who ran the college, the year I did at college wasn't for me. I was actually proper drip when I was that age. I was like, it didn't say a lot. I've kind of come out of my shell a little bit. But
I don't think anyone will know you as not saying a lot.
no, that's sometimes my problem. I say too much. But then, so the woman who ran that was a lady called. The woman who ran it was a lady called Wendy Sutters, and again, hugely influential. I'm still friends with her now. Like, where I've been lucky over the years is people that I've worked for or kind of been involved with that I'm still friendly with now, and that's one thing I'm really proud of. So my first big job was actually where Jeanette started, and it's where a few of us have started. Like Sarah Cutteridge started there, well, Cutty, at Lawrence David event team, and I did 6 months there for dear old Anne Marshall, and she's no longer with us, but she was terrifying. And now when I grew, I am obsessive about skipping out, and like clean beds, clean feet. And it's because you'd get so used. She'd come onto the yard, and if you'd skipped out and you walked around the yard and there was a dropping net stable, she would get. I mean, you didn't know where to hide. So she got that kind of instilled into me, and then from that, I was just looking for your horse in hand one day, and I happened to see back in when we looked at Horse and Hound for jobs, and I saw an article, a job interview for someone called Jeanette Breakwell, and I was like,
Who's that?
I know, some,
Horse and Hound.
I know.
That's ancient.
It's on
when he-
Facebook now.
I know, believe it or not, with these, I mean, the Horse and Hound used to be that thick at the back with horses for sale, and there used to be like 3 pages of job adverts. Like if you wanted a job, when you're going back to the late 1990s, you looked in Horse and Hound. That was the only place to look for one. So I saw the advert, and I rang her, and it's actually I started the year after Sydney, and she'd just been in Daily Mail, and she hates being reminded about it, but they painted her.
Do you know what this story is?
They painted her. What colour medal did they win?
Silver.
They painted her whole, but I mean, she looked amazing in the picture. She hates it, and then she had her arm over her boots, and then a saddle covering a midriff, and it was but like it was in the Daily Mail, like it was a huge thing. They did it with quite a few of them, and like I remember seeing that picture, and I was like, yeah, she's quite cool. So I did. I went to work for her, and when I started with her in Norfolk, at a little farm, pineapple farm. I've got lots of very happy memories at. We stayed there for a few years, and then I moved with her to Leicestershire, and then we put that kind of. I left. What should I do next? I think I freelanced down south a little bit. Then I went home, and I worked for a guy called Jamie Atkinson, who was a local event rider to my parents. And I was there for 3 years and had 3 really fun years back at IMAs in my mid-20s. We partied a lot. A very good friend at home, Vanessa, and we partied a lot. That was really good fun. And that was good. And then I had a rush of helium and did 3 years of dressage. I got offered a job for a Chinese girl she bought a horse and they needed it. It was a stallion and he was a goat. So he wasn't the person to look after, and he needed a man, and they were getting ready to go to the Olympics, and we didn't get there. It was really sad. But at the time we were based at Ankie van Grunsven's. So like it was like, and she was still like, I mean she still is now, but like, I mean people now are like, oh, Charlotte's the queen. Like back then Ankie was like, she was the universe. Like she was what dressage was. Her and Isabella were like the universe, and I think Ankie still is out there. Did that, and then I went to work for some bird called Reef Edge, who again I'm still very lucky. She's a very close friend, and I had four and a half amazing years with Ruth. She still had a great team of horses. I've got some very happy memories with Ruth. We had some good horses, some average horses, some good memories, some bad memories, and they were good times. And then with Ruth, we moved down to Foston, down the road from here. We lived there for a year and a half, and then I got halfway through the end of one season, and I always said I was going to finish Grooming when I was 40 because I didn't want to be that. I've seen, and I respect them for it, but I see them now, like these old grooms that are still out there slogging away, working. They've got nothing to show for it apart from memories. And so I always said I do not want to be that person. So I got a job working for Devaku Saddles, and that took up 3.5 years of my life. And then, what did we do after that? God, it's been so many. What did I do after Devaku? I freelanced for a bit.
Was that freelance grooming?
It was. I was lucky. I did quite a lot of show jumping as well. By this point, I moved into quite a bit of show jumping, so I did quite a lot. It's a chap from the north in Cumbria called Richard Jenkinson. He's a great guy. He's an amateur, but he's great fun, and we'd go to Portugal twice a year, and it was just so much fun. And then I'm very good friends with Nina Barber, who owns Bellsworth, that small place down the road, and I do some shows with her, so I'd kind of gotten into going to more shows with her, and the whole thing just kind of spalled on. And then we were living in, I think we'd moved back to Newcastle at that point, and I got offered a job. I'd been doing some freelance work for a company called Tracy Spark, which are based in Leicester, and I've known the family for a long time. And they said, would you come to us full time? I was like, well, I can't. Adrian's in Newcastle. Like, I can't. And basically they gave him a job and we moved in. So did that for a couple of years. Had a great time there. They're a lovely family. And then freelanced for a year And then I got off the job of full-time design from saddles again, and really nearly didn't take it, because I'd left when I left Evercoo. It's a bit like, you know what, I really don't want to do saddles anymore. Like, it's a thankless task. It's hard work. It's a lot of driving. But I thought, you know what, actually, I've got something to prove here. I'm going to give it a go. And I left a couple of months ago, and it was brilliant. I really enjoyed it. But I got to the point again where I didn't want to do the driving anymore. And again, as I seem to with every job, I can still go back and help them freelance, because we coped as with my boss when I left, and then so we did. And then I was going to freelance, and then I saw a job as a retail manager down at Eland Lodge, down the road, running the shop. I thought, God, this is this crazy decision. That's what I did when I went into dress. I was like, what am I doing? And I was like, I've never worked in a shop before. What am I doing? And I went for an interview, and I was looking around, and I was like, oh my God. And I thought, no, I'm going to give this a go. It's half an hour from home. I want to be home more. I wanted structure, and so I thought, give it a go. I did 2 days and nearly left. I rang Jeanette and was like, it's not for me. She's like, for God's sake, you've been there for 2 days. Give it a chance.
Give it a month.
Yeah. So I took a deep breath from that point and went back in a completely different mind frame. And I've done 2 months now and I love it.
That's really good.
And that's me till now, really.
No. Do you think so obviously you're saying about the retail job is very different to what you've done before, but is it skills that you've learned along the way, or is it totally different?
No, it's not, and that's what I said to my interview. I said to them, I don't know why you're interested in me, because there must be better people out there, like better qualified in retail. But then I thought about it, like, you've done every aspect of the job. Like, you've got the horse experience. Like, when I help Nina at the horse shows, I help in the hospitality, I look after the sponsors, I do the presentations, so all of that comes out of the front of house corporate side of it. And then obviously the customer service side of it and dealing with the nagging customers came from the saddles. So actually, then I'd managed staff, I'd done rotors, I'd interviewed people. So as much as I didn't think I'd done any of it, actually I'd done all of it, just in different jobs. So do you feel like I was then ready to go into that job?
Yeah, no,
it's very different.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Very different.
Yeah, and so would you say, like, your time as a groom has contributed to them being able to do these different types of jobs?
Yeah.
Putting all of that into
it has
practice?
Really, because like I've seemed to have been really lucky in my entire career. I've fallen from job to job. Every job's just found me. Like, I found Jeanette having a glass of look. Just that first kind of accident looking for your horse and hound, and then that started my career. And like, I often get quite like choked up talking about it, because I have had an amazing career, but it's been like, it's not just that. Like, I've worked for some amazing people, and those people are still a huge part of my life, and I think that's why I get quite kind of all about it, because they are a huge part of my life. Like, Jeanette's like a sister.
But I do think that comes with the intensity and the closeness of the role. Like, you spend it's the time that you spend together.
We say this, that the job is just special because it's not normal.
No. You live in a lorry together. And my God, when I first went to work for Jeanette, and the lorry didn't even have living.
Where did you stay?
On a mattress. We used to pee in a bucket in the back.
She probably would still do that,
she would.
given the choice.
She would. She's feral.
I'd be like, right, I'm having a tent outside.
But we did, like, we joke now, like, people said, like, I was at Bramham a couple of weeks ago. I went up and did a couple of days with Voltaire, and I was like, parties are so crap now. Like, why? So do you know why the parties were so good 23 years ago? It's because everyone had awful lorries, and you had to go to the bar to get warm.
Yeah. Everyone was there.
And nobody had. I remember the first time I saw a lorry pop out, and I was like, oh my God, this girl called Sally Dawson who did ponies, and it's like, what is that lorry? It's got this thing coming out. I mean, now it's the norm. Like, it's amazing how it's all changed.
No, that actually makes sense, because literally at Bicton a couple of weeks ago, me and Jan were sat in the gazebo outside, and we were like looking around in the lorry park. We were just having our tea, and we're like, nobody is outside their lorries, because they don't need to be, because inside the lorry.
And in a way, it killed the sport.
Yeah, because we were like, right, who can we go and like join? Kind of thing. But like, that makes sense.
Back in the day, you went to the bar because everybody was in the bar. Everyone went to the bar to eat.
So what? Grooms went with riders to the bar.
Everyone.
Yeah. Like you all went together.
It was. I think it's changed a lot over the years, and like the old. I mean, I think that's one of the most humbling things about what I've done in my career. Like, when I was a teenager, I used to watch like Gatcombe and Burley and badminton on the TV, and you'd see like Big Bill Foxpit on Pippa and Mad Mary King, and like that look on TV, and you were like, thought these people were like literally superhuman. And I mean, like, then you realise that you get to know them, and actually you form friendships with them, and you realise actually they're amazing people. Like I feel incredibly lucky that I was in an era where we had the true greats, and I probably slightly political, but I don't know how many of these younger riders that are out there now will leave a legacy that people.
I always wondered this.
And I don't think they will leave a legacy of someone,
Yeah.
like someone like Mark Todd or Andrew Nicholson.
And
or
do you think
Blythe
that's
Tate.
because there's more of them now than there was?
Possibly. I think they're probably just a bit more talented.
Right.
Like they were horsemen. They produced horses. They were. I mean, I feel like I've lived through an era of like just absolute true greats. Like the riders. Like I mean, Jeanette's testament that she's still riding now and riding better than ever, and like Pippa's only just slowing down, and like the Polly Stocktons of the world, like the Tina Cooks, like the Karen Dixons, like most kids don't even know who Karen Dixon is. I mean, she was amazing, and like I'm actually feel honoured that I was around in that era, and I can kind of take this one and leave it. Like where we are in current times, as much as there's still a lot of those people competing, like it's an incredible sport. People just keep going, but I do
know.
feel.
Well, when will she stop? Just asking for a friend here.
No, she's going to carry on making me get up at 1:30.
Yeah, she's you should have seen her at Summerford today, and she was flying, and she came back and she's like, I've jumped bigger fences than I've ever jumped before here, and I was like, oh God, calm down, like.
It's unbelievable.
but
it's no, I do feel truly privileged that I lived through, I groomed through, and when I in the beginning of my more so in the beginning of my career, they were just true greats still competing, and like you going like I don't forget going I think we were at Blenheim one year and I was in the bar and Mark Todd came over and started talking to me, and I was like, oh my God, Mark Todd's talking to me. Oh my God, Jeanette was like, get a grip. Like, what is wrong with you? And
stop embarrassing me.
It is. And like a few years later, we went to stay, when I worked for Jamie, we used to go, obviously back then Scotland had a really good event circuit. You could do like 20 events in Scotland, so we used to go there a lot, and we used to stay at Ian Stark's a lot. And I remember walking around, Ian is very direct, and I remember walking around the yard one day looking at all like nameplates like Glen Burnie and like all of these amazing horses. I was like, God, Ian, I'm almost like, so I always get like a little bit like, starstruck when they came. You still get a grip. And I was like, no, I do. I said, I don't think you realise how amazing, like how that little wooden yard and where Ian lived in Scotland was like incredible. It was on the side of a hill on the A7. I mean, nobody else would have done it. But it was that. I feel lucky that I've been able to go into places like that and see it from the inside. Mm-hmm. I think in general I've been very lucky, and I feel very privileged.
I think touching back on the kind of what we were just saying about like the greats and that kind of thing, I think we were touching on this a bit when we had Jeanette on about the sport changing, and actually I'd say probably the big thing is the money, because the young rider scene and the junior scene now and that kind of thing, it's really nice when someone has produced their horse up their level from but so many of them now are the same horses that go year in year out, and they're passed between the riders for big money. So I guess it's less so like, like when you look at say Jan and Jack, that was a raw 4-year-old thoroughbred. Like you don't tend to get that anymore.
And it was like,
but that creates the horse person.
And Pippa would have produced all like those greats that Pippa rode, Supreme Rock, Primrose Pride, like all of those amazing horses. They all went through Burley Young Event Horse. Like she produced all those. Tina produced all of hers. William produced all of his. And there's nothing wrong with the fact that that there's very fortunate people out there that get bought nice horses. That we are in a world that people talk about horses still that there's no money in it. They couldn't be more wrong. Especially in show. I mean, people are lucky, and people get bought nice things, and they get bought nice horses. Like you're never going to get away from that. But I think that the way the sport's moved, it had to change, because I was one of the. As much as it was an amazing era to groom through, it was that horrible era where we lost a lot of friends. Mm-hmm. There were a lot of fatalities, and the early 2000s were a pretty dark time. We lost We lost too many amazing people in horrible falls, and every year I go to Burley now, I still take flowers to the lake for Cara and Pratt, and we lost too many amazing people, and something had to change.
Is this as in frangibles?
Yeah,
that kind of
but I think losing the roads and tracks and everything. I mean, I actually thought, I talk like I've ridden. I've never competed. I've done enough.
Yeah, but you've known the sport for a long time.
I have, and I actually personally think they killed the sport. They got rid of days and roads and tracks.
They've changed the type of horse that you need
they
now,
have,
don't they? And the dressage horses are suddenly jumping.
And they were fit. My God, when we grew, even thoroughbreds like Jack, who got himself fit, walking, dancing in the stable. They got work twice a day. They were fit. They were fit and ready to run. They could do that. I wouldn't have a clue. A lot of hacking before the steeplechase, whiz around the steeplechase, have a 10-minute cool off, do more roads and tracks, have 10 minutes, and then go and do 10 minutes of cross country. Now some of them struggling around 10 minutes of cross country. They'd be absolutely lost.
Yeah, and I think that is that we're seeing the impact of that 20 years on. Roughly, is that about right?
Yeah, I can't remember.
We weren't actually born. We're talking like we know.
I always struggle to remember what year roads and tracks stopped. I think it's quite iconic that Jeanette was the last horse to go around Badminton steeplechase.
Yeah, she reminds us every year.
Yeah, I bet she does. And I think it was 2005, but I'm probably wrong.
Yeah, so about 20 years.
Yeah.
But then, so actually now we have seen the development in there is much less blood horses in the sport. So the dressage marks are lower.
Yeah.
It's a lot more, the cross country is less influential.
Yeah.
And I guess that's something that you have seen throughout.
No, I have.
Because it's what we're used to now, really. Obviously I knew Jack, but in his retirement, we weren't actually seeing the sport when it was roads and tracks.
Yeah, it was different.
Yeah.
It really was. It was different. Badminton was always horrendous because we used to pack a trunk. Jackie Potts, Williams, old head groom, used to make us die because she used to take this trunk that you could sleep in, and she would take. Honestly, I can't tell you how much stuff you used to put in it. It had everything but the kitchen sink in it. I don't know what she thought was going to happen on the racing track. We used to. Honestly, this trunk was just enormous. But we all took a lot of stuff. We used to take spare breastplates, spare reins, spare girts, spare shoes, spare boots. Because in any of the three phases, anything could go wrong. So we used to lug these trunks everywhere. And badminton, you'd do it on the back of a car. And dear old Mark and Yvonne used to come in their pickup. And we'd chuck it in the back and off we'd go. And you'd go out to the steeplechase. And it's... and then you come back down and you get them all washed off. And then you go cross country. Then you go and do it all again. So we always have two. And it made it a very long day.
It sounds like Grooms, like that sounds like what we do sounds so easy.
Grooms,
you sound like you're running around.
Grooms, Grooms now do work very hard. I would never say that Grooms work. I would admire any groom that does this job because it is taxing. But what I would say is the sport that we did back then was tougher because you were away from the stables for longer. You were following them around. There was more chance of injury. There was more the steeplechase was fast and it was tough. Badminton, they galloped. They really did gallop and jump. And there was you were opening up the window for more injuries, and it was tougher because then you had another wash off. You had all this stuff to lug around. You had your trunk, your wheelbarrow, your car. Then trying to get back down to the D box of badminton, used to take you around the back of the. You used to go around the back of the trade stands, and they didn't rope it off. So then you'd be driving down, and Mark would be trying to run people over. And get out of the way, we literally, and you could see them trotting down, and you were still weren't there.
Beep.
The amount of people,
Jack's gone well fast.
The amount of people over the years that missed the C box before they went cross country because they were still. I always remember I think we were in Poe, and it's when Rachel Wakefield rode, and she had a guy called Fraser grieving for her, and he'd got so stuck trying to get down. We'd been in, we'd washed it off, and he got on, and he kind of wandered in. Where is she? I said, she started. But that's what happened. It was different. But it was amazing. It was proper adrenaline.
Yeah. And I guess also, not only saying about the physically tired, but also if your rider's out for over an hour.
Riders are fit.
The riders are fit, but also the adrenaline of you what, like, you know, it's a lot longer than that 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, when your rider's out on course and you're thinking, like, is everything going okay? They're away for...
And it could go wrong on the roads and tracks. I remember we were at Burley once and we were racing in the steeplechase and we had this horse galloping through the woods. So roads and tracks generally, you're like, what? It wasn't, the timings weren't that much. And I heard this horse go galloping through the woods, like flying through the trees. And it was Polly Stockton and word for word. And I think I don't know what she'd done. I think she'd like messed the stopwatch off, watched her watcher. And I mean, she was literally galloping through the trees, reading peace. You know, you got time coming on phase A, and like Ruth would tell a really funny story when she rode a horse called Matthew for the Lawsons, the yard she lived at up in Cumbria. And she fell off. He whipped around and she fell off, and like, he trotted off for a bit, so she had to catch him and get back on and try and catch him, so she didn't get any time penalties. I mean, all sorts of calamities happen on roads and tracks. They really did.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah,
to be fair.
For sure. And I think with the rise of social media and stuff, and hearing that story now, if you were to hear that today, there would probably be like a lot of people with their backs up.
We didn't have
no.
And that's and it's quite sad with it. We didn't really. I got my first smartphone. It's gonna make me sound really old. I got my first iPhone in 2008. So that was the first phone that was. I don't know if my phones before that could take, but I don't think they could take pictures. So like, and it's quite sad really, because I have got a lot of pictures of my career. It's one of the things that drives me mad about Mum. Like, here's us getting in the lorry to go to the competition. Here's us doing that. Here's us doing that.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah,
that's what we do.
And I get it, but like, it's also quite sad because I don't have a huge amount of pictures of I'm keep looking around at these amazing horses that I looked after at Jeanette's, and I don't have many pictures of them because it was all done on a bloody camera, and you have to take it to Boots and get them reeled up. You know, they came back, and it was like, then you lose them, and then so I don't like. Luckily, my memories are in here, but I don't have a lot of them to look at.
But then also, I do think as well, because the photos that you probably do have are really special, because nowadays, without realising, you probably take, especially if we just go up and we're jumping and we're videoing horses, like we're taking 50 photos or videos a day, and
it's just normal now.
Yeah, it's completely normal.
Yeah, so the ones I do have are very special.
Yeah, or even like you said, the ones in the tack room, like when you actually see the ones printed, like it still means a lot more than
it does.
Just what's on social media on your phone.
I've been lucky enough to have some amazing horses. Some really amazing horses.
So we've touched a bit on it so far, but we kind of want to say about, obviously how we've touched a bit on how the sport's changed, but a bit about how the industry has changed as a groom, and kind of, because I think we are trying to highlight, hopefully in a positive light, about what you can get out of this job and that kind of thing. But we also acknowledge there is a lot of barriers and reasons why the roles aren't being filled and that kind of thing. We thought we could pick your brain a bit. Try not to be too controversial.
I know. Me? Don't know what you mean. I'm known for my tact. I'm not aware of what you mean. Why is the industry struggling?
We've made him speechless.
You have.
That's because there's so much to say.
You know, when I started grooming, I talk like when I groomed the world was black and white. It wasn't, listeners. Nearly. But there was a very different way of looking after horses. It was there was a lot of stuff, like it was the old way, the way we looked after them, and it wasn't even that different. I think we just did things properly. Horses got brushed properly. We just seemed to have time, and we didn't mind working until 9 o'clock at night. When you guys are prying with this tonight, I've just got here with wine in my hand, but I got here, you're still platting one, you've still got stud holes to do, and you're leaving at 1:30 in the morning. Okay, people listening to this might say that's not normal, and arguably it isn't. You're getting up at 1:30, but then you'd be home at 2 o'clock, and at the end of the day, that is the job. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the problem with a lot of grooms now coming into it. They want 7 till 5, and they don't want to do the overtime. And you're event grooms. You're going to have long days and late finishes. That is the job. There's no getting around it. I think there should be probably more reward for the hours and the time spent doing it. And I think that's where it's changed a lot. I mean, my first job, so I didn't get paid a lot. I can assure you, but and like, I don't know, it's just, you did it. I think people still do it for the love. So it's not, I can't say that we did it for the love and people don't do it for the love, because that's the wrong thing to say. But like, I think people in general, grooms in this day are gone lazy. Like, I do quite a lot of show jumping. Like, show jump grooms, like, I won't do more than 3 horses. Like, okay, what are you going to do the rest of the day? But then they would say, well, horses at that level, they need the level of care they need now, because we go back to the value of horses. They do. I mean, they are looked after like professional athletes, and they do take a lot of care, like icing, ropes, spars, hand grazing, walking, this, that, competing, like everything. It does take time.
You can't change the job's hours.
No, you can't.
I think that's,
and
we discussed that quite a bit, don't we?
I mean, for my whole career, until I say from 1997 until 2014, I did 6 days a week and thought that was normal. And now I look back on it, and actually the last grooming job I did at Pressy, I did 5 days a week, and I have to be careful because my dear old friend who's about to make me a barbecue and is probably going to spit in my food when she hears this. I think as an industry standard, people should be working 5 days a week.
We do 5.5 now.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Oh, we've progressed.
Yeah. Since COVID.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, we do 5.5.
But there are still a huge amount of people out there that... And
there's still loads of jobs that don't.
It always makes me laugh when I see job adverts. 6 days in the season, 5 days in the winter. Like, do you pay them, you say you pay them the same amount to work that extra day in the summer? Like, do they get that as holiday? Probably not. You're never going to be able to... The industry will always be slightly tarred by people. You're always going to have... I think, in general, the riders now, because they know that people are watching them and social media's there and there's so many things, they have to be careful, and they have to be careful when they're employing people. And I think it's done a lot better than it used to be.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I do still see adverts on Facebook from riders, and I'm like, their advert is very incorrect in what they're advertising, and for someone that's just starting out, that you're not going to see it. But actually, I've worked for other riders, and you know what to look for, and there's still riders putting it online. They're like, come and work for me. I'm not going to pay you, or you can have some cash. Like,
and it's just not normal.
No, how's anyone meant to build a future like that?
It's not normal. I mean, I don't know why these... And then those riders would probably say, oh, well, we can't afford to pay them. Well, I would have a really clear outlook on that. Don't bloody do it then. Because it's modern slave labour. Sorry to offend any listeners out there that are listening, but that is my view on it. Send me a WhatsApp and we'll discuss it.
I think you've got a pretty strong argument there, so I think you're fine.
No, it's something I feel really strongly about, because I can have a strong argument. I can have a strong argument about it, because I did it for years, and so I did it. If I hadn't done it, I would just be preaching for nothing. But I did it.
But at the time, you didn't see it as a problem when you were
normal.
doing it. Yeah.
And like, you guys are getting up at 1:30 tomorrow morning. I mean, that was normal. Like, when I worked for Jeanette in 2002, Jeanette was ranked second in the world. Like, that year was just a whirlwind. I mean, she was second everywhere we went. I mean, we had the highlight of the World Games at the end of it, which has always been my career highlight. But that year was just crazy, and like, every weekend you would just like, oh well, get up at 3 o'clock, you get back at 9 o'clock, skip the lorry out, put different tack in, check the horses are ready for the next day, go to bed for a few hours, get up again, get in the lorry, drive to the event. And it's not like, it's a tough industry, like for the riders as well. I mean, I was watching the Moulin today, and it looks amazing. Like, it's so prestigious at that level. They're all flying around on these amazing horses, but the effort and the team behind them that have gone into that. But it is hard to try and make it attractive to people coming into it, and I think colleges have got a lot to blame. I don't think they don't prepare grooms well enough for the industry. I mean, we used to have them, I've employed them, and they come and they think they're ready to come into the real world, and they aren't, and they don't last very long, because they weren't prepared like we were back in the day. Like,
and then that industry is then tarnished, because that person potentially is going to
Yeah.
go away and say, oh, it was awful and it was hard. And
A lot of us older grooms might have started in hunting yards and like did that and worked really hard, and like it came through a very different system to get to the point of where we got to, and it's a very very different start to how a lot of grooms come into it now. There's no right or wrong way for any groom to get to what level they get to in the end. It's just it is worrying for the industry that I still now get offered jobs like, do you want to come and work for me? No, I don't. And don't get me wrong, if I was single, I might take one. I got offered a few years ago. I got offered a job looking after 2 dressage horses in Florida, and I could have named my price and had to think long and hard about saying no to that one. But no, there is it. It is hard. It's a hard job to, and I think that's the problem. I think that there's so much more emphasis now on working hours and what people should be paid. I think they see it so much more. It's all over, like there's websites for it. There's everything, and quite rightly. But then people look at that and they go for an interview and they're like, well, you might have to get up at 3 o'clock to go to an event, and then you might not get back to 9 o'clock, and then we have to turn the door around and you're back on the yard at 6:30 the next morning. I mean, who's going? I mean,
Yeah, it's like, oh, well, they didn't say that would happen at college.
no, like no one prepared me for that. But that is the job. And like, I mean, I don't do a lot of grooming anymore, but I still do quite a bit of grooming I actually, before I started my job, I had 2 very nice weeks in San Tropez, with Nina with her show jumpers. And I mean, the first day I left, I think I got up at 1:30. I mean, that was a fairly brutal alarm. But off I went with my 2 horses and my big lorry, and I two-sold on down to Dover, and off I went and drove through France and stayed a few times. And I had a lovely journey, but they are long days. But you just get on with it, but then I think that's the problem. We all come from an era where we did just get on with it, and that's the problem with maybe the younger ones coming through. Because they had a different start, they haven't been prepared just to get on with it, so it all seems a bit daunting to them.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes sense.
That's quite a long-winded answer to that, but I kind of got there in the end.
No, I think that's really. It's such a hard one to discuss because there's so many avenues off it, but it is a really tricky one.
Well, it's political as well, because you're going to offend people, aren't you? Because there's so many people out there that are wheel breakers, and like a lot of those people, like it shouldn't be an industry standard that people are out there and people are clearly not paying people enough, and clearly having people living in cold mobile homes. But then at the same time, grooms have a responsibility. The amount of people I see grooms bleating on, I get paying £50 a week and I live in a mobile home. Leave.
This is literally us, don't
leave.
we? Literally, we do say this, and it's
take some responsibility, get another job.
Yeah,
there
because until someone leaves, that rider's going to keep.
There are some amazing jobs out there. Yeah. I know I've been doing it a long time and I'm experienced, but I've been offered some amazing jobs with eye-watering money to groom. There are jobs out there that the wage would take on like serious jobs, and okay, granted, probably more in dressage and show jumping, but it is out there. But yeah, you do have to take some accountability for it as well.
Yeah, I think that's way we do discuss this quite a lot, and it is actually there is no simple answer to the question of what we do, but I think a start is the groom, and it is easier said than done when you're not in that situation.
Yeah.
But
sometimes you don't know what the grass is like on the other side.
Exactly.
Of the fence,
and when you're in it, you can't. It's much easier when you're not in it to look back and think, "Oh, why was I doing that?" But you know, if something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. I
mean, I remember when I first went to Roofs, and again, it goes back to that thing of knowing people forever. Like Ruth is the same age as me, so I've kind of gone through my career watching when she first was riding ice dancer. Badminton and very terrifying everyone, and probably herself as well. And when I first went to a free, we had about 30 horses in, and I'd done big yards, but like Jeanette never had. I think the most Jeanette would have been like 15, 20. Jamie certainly never had that many. And I went to her for Ruth, and there was horses everywhere. And on my first morning, she was like, right, and this one's this, and that one's advanced, and that's, of course, she had the dressage horses as well. And that one's Prince of George, and that one's that, and that one's that. And I remember walking around just thinking, oh my god, so many horses. Like, but then we had a great team. We had part-timers that came into Macau. A lady called Diane, she was like 60, and she used to make us cakes, and like, she was an absolute ledge. Like, she'd come in, she'd muck out, she'd do the hay bags, she'd watch her about all morning, and then she'd go, and she was an absolute lifesaver. But even then, like, at that point in my career, and I started with Ruth in 2011, like, it was still quite daunting. I was like, wow, this is a lot of horses. And like, we would live, like, because we did dual sports, like, we'd go to an event with some horses. Granny Annie, who was up in Cumbria, would be on her way down the M6 with another 5 horses. We'd get to our motorway services. They'd be out. Ruth would be stood there with 5 horses in the M6 services. You can picture it, can't you?
Have you?
Yeah.
Had horses there.
There'd be dirty numbness being flung out the side of one side of the lorry, clean ones put on the other side, food going in the living. I mean, the amount of time we went to the Dressage Nationals. Oh, I don't know where we've been before. And Ruth, in her wisdom, did a Tesco order. So we were driving along, and it got delivered to the stable managers and not to the lorry, so we went down for wheelbarrow. And we began there, and seeing all this coffee, like in a really big pots of Nescafe. She'd managed to order 10 massive jars of that, and I just...
Well, you do need a lot of caffeine.
I was about to say, sounds about like it lasted you about 10 days.
Why? Just why? And it just was one of those things. We had coffee for a long time. But we lived on the road.
Yeah.
But it was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Let's just get to the point. Like, why did you leave grooming then? Like, why do people not stay as groom? You're saying you had an amazing time. Why did you decide to leave?
My body was giving up. It goes back to when I said, like, I remember looking around at the older grooms and thinking, I don't want to be that person. And I was really lucky. Grooming had stopped me progressing in my life. Like, I'd never had a proper relationship. The horses were my relationship. I'd never really been allowed to progress. And it wasn't until I was 37 that I met my fiance, Adrian. And I don't think we'd have met if I was still grooming, because I was still flinging myself around. No, to be honest, but then I was when we first met. I think for the first, I can't remember how many years it was. Quite a few. I mean, I was away a lot. I was like, so going to Spain for 3 weeks, and then I'd ring and be like, so I'm staying for another 3 weeks, and I'm just looking across because he's just reminding me of it. But I was like, so I'll be home. I thought I'm actually going to go to another place in Spain for 3 weeks. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, I'll see you in 14 weeks.
It was.
Yeah.
But it's kind of what you have to do as a freelance career. But you can't do freelancing. You can't be. Freelancing is like, you've just got to be available just to go and just drop everything, and you can't do that with a partner. But I genuinely think if I hadn't given up grooming, I wouldn't have met Adrian. And that was another reason I wanted to stop. I wanted to know what normal was. I wanted to know what working a 5-day week was, what that kind of normal thing was. And it was good because it meant I got to move back home to Durham. When I worked for Devaki, I covered the Northern Territories. And I was like, when I stopped first, I was like, I would literally get itchy feet about 9 o'clock at night thinking I had to go and do lates. And I'd almost go like, and I was like, oh, I don't have to do that. I can go to bed. This is amazing.
Yeah.
And then like that first few, because I did fairly go wild in those few years when I went back up to, I lived near Newcastle and we went out a lot. We did fairly go wild. Anyone that knows me knows that I do like a good time. And it was pretty, but like, it got like constantly every weekend. It's like, I was like, you go to bed, like, you come in a half curtain, like, you can never get to sleep, and you're like flicking through your phone. Just getting ready to go to Little Down. And I was like, I'm just going to bed. But I was like, this is normal life.
Yeah.
And then I begrudgingly, when I left Evercute, then I went back freelancing because it was like, well, I kind of saw my arse on Evercute and was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And that was it was an easy thing for me to walk into. And to be fair, when I went to, I wasn't lined up with the Eland Lodge when I left Voltaire. I just decided I didn't want to do it anymore. I was happily going to freelance. And then I saw the job, and luckily I went straight into that, so I didn't have to freelance. But then it's just, I did a Virgin a few years ago. I caused a massive scene 2 days in a row. Were you there?
No, but I've heard.
Everyone's heard the story when Davina had a heart attack. Did not have a heart attack. But I did.
I've not heard this, so you know.
My heart went a bit spazzy 2 days in a row. And basically I went into AFib. And my heart was racing. At one point it was at 220 beats per minute, which is apparently quite fast. And I remember stood with Holly Woodhead, and she said to me, "Your t-shirt's bad," and my t-shirt was literally bouncing out of my chest. So of course, we went down, sat down, got the doctors. Cross country had just finished. Because I was there with Pressy Smart, in the middle of the lorry park, and at one point I had 6 ambulances and about 10 doctors.
And you'd not even fallen off a horse.
Well, everyone was bored because they'd all finished cross country, so everybody wanted to come and see what happened.
Yeah.
People were lodging around because everyone thought I was having a heart attack. I mean, it was lovely.
That got them out their fancy
Oh my
lorries.
god, it really did. And honest to God, so off I go to hospital, go and sit in A&E, and say, "No, there's nothing wrong with you." And I was like, "I'm sure there is." Doctor sent me in. No, nothing wrong with you. So I thought, I went back, and it happened again the next morning, and then I actually went back in. The on-site doctor at Virgin, it's a guy called Jonathan Forty. He's actually a leading heart surgeon, and I used to look after his horses at Jamie's. Very helpful. He made one phone call, and I got wheeled straight into a cardiac unit in the RVI Newcastle, and I was looked after like a private patient. And basically, they came back, and I have got a bit of defect with my heart. Doesn't really affect me, but it did make me think I need to just think about life and just start to slow down, which is probably what spurred me on more when the Voltaire job came on, to take that, because I knew it was easier, and then into this job. So that's really why I stopped. I miss it. Like, the one thing you can't, and I'm lucky that I can still do bits. Like, I really enjoyed my 2 weeks in Santa Fe with Nina. I do really enjoy it when I go and do it, but you can't, like, it does have an impact on your life. Like, you can't progress in life because you're always mucking on horses.
Yeah.
Like, it does, no matter how you try and look at it, like, it does have an impact.
Yeah, and that's not going to change, is
No.
it? And I think that's what we're trying to
You do
find.
sign up to the job.
Yeah, how can grooming progress and be more adaptable and, you know, fit the normal work-life balance, but it doesn't. And I think you've hit the nail on the head in that it doesn't, and until you leave, you're not gonna.
It is your life. It is your everything. Those horses are your children. They are your everything. And I mean, and they have to be in a way. Like, I mean, that comes back. I mean, I've been so fortunate and looked after some of the most amazing horses that I just adored, really. But the job is your life.
No, well, I think that's a pretty good point to finish on, really, because I think we've covered what we hope to cover.
I've managed to offend too many people.
Hopefully we haven't.
If I haven't, then I haven't achieved in what I set out to do.
Yeah, we'll have you back on next week.
Give me a glass of wine and we'll see what can really go wrong.
Yeah, we'll come back after you've had your barbecue and half a bottle.
Yeah, actually, that would be a really good idea.
Round 2.
Ben can come back in as well.
I'll get her bleating on now. When I fell off at badminton, when I break my thumb, and when I was straight to that gate. No, you weren't. I jumped on an angle.
But no, thank you so much for coming on and giving us a real insight.
Yeah, sharing your experiences as well, and yeah. It's been really insightful.
Yeah, never mind the listeners. I've quite enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.
But no, you're very welcome. And we've actually got quite a few guests lined up for our listeners. So luckily enough, you don't have to just listen to us having bad days.
Yeah, although we might have another bad day to share after tomorrow. So
yeah, after our half one start. Yeah.
I'll think about you.
Yeah, no. So thank you very much. And we will be back next week.